so much for joining us today and for bringing us in with some chill vibes, Dan. That was Dan Searle. You can find his music at rawartist.com/Dan Searle, and that track was called Imuna, for those of you who are listening. Welcome to Industry Exchange. My name is Meghan Jones. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'd like everyone who's out there watching and introduce you to Shana Nys Dambrot. Thank you so much for being here.
Hello, everybody.
And she is the arts editor for LA Weekly here in lovely, sunny Southern California. So thank you very much for joining us today. I appreciate you taking out the time. We were kind of having a little industry discussion here, so I know how important your time is, but she's here to talk to you guys, you artists out there. Would you mind just kind of introducing yourself to the viewers?
Yeah, not at all. Thank you so much for having me. I'm like an old school raw artist fan, like from the beginning. So it's just on a personal note, really exciting to see, you know, what was literally like a good idea in someone's living room turn into like, among other, like a national phenomenon and like a TV station.
Yeah, it's great.
So that's pretty cool. So yeah, LA Weekly arts editor, that is completely true. I've been there about 1.5 years, although, and I love saying this, it's either the 3rd or 4th time I've worked there over the years, depending on how you count, because you kind of like every culture art writer, music writer kind of has to work there at some point. So I have worked there over the years before, but this is the first time. I'd been a freelancer every other time for different editors. But now I'm sort of in charge of the section, so it's different.
I love that.
But my history with them goes back as long as I can remember. And, you know, I grew up in New York, and the Village Voice was really formative to me. So it was kind of always... It's always kind of been a dream of mine. So anyway, I'm there now, and I love it. And
so have you always been drawn to art, or like what drew you? Have you always been a...
Yeah, well, so basically I studied art history in college. And that was because it was sort of like the perfect marriage of my interests and my skill set, in that even when I was a little kid, I was like that kid that would like write a poem about the family dog or write a little story about my stuffed animals, adventures, whatever. And then, you know, I took the, you know, literary mag in high school. And, I was that person. And I just spent a lot of time when I grew up in New York City going to a lot of the museums and things. And it eventually occurred to me that art history was a discipline you could study that combined my love of visual art and the act of writing. And then later on, it occurred to me that art critic was a job that did this, that did
that
the
was
same,
like a thing,
that combined those things. And so it really is just kind of like all I ever wanted to do.
Oh, wow.
I know,
that was
weird,
just like building, all the things.
I
just
never
kind of
wanted
like building
to do
up
anything else.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It is.
That's amazing. That's amazing. You're like, what I set out to do, I'm actually doing. So, like, given that, like, what accomplishments are you most proud of then? Like, obviously achieving life goals, being an art critic.
I mean, the LA Weekly thing is cool because it used to be, and this is like a whole tangent, but there was a time that it was part of the same company that owned the Village Voice. Right. And I just kind of remember like really looking up to Michael Musto and his amazing column and his work in the Village Voice. And we're like friends now.
Oh, that's goals,
so that felt like a goal. On a personal level, writing for KCET for the Artbound program here was really important because my mother knows what PBS is. So she was like, my kid's relate. On PBS. And I was like, yes, you know that one. So that was really great. And, the LA Weekly thing is something I'm really proud of the work I'm doing there and professionally. And then I have a book that's kind of my fiction work. It's a collaboration with my boyfriend, who's an incredible fine art photographer and photojournalist, and we have that project that we did together that I'm actually waiting for the galley proofs to come in the mail like any second.
You're like, man,
so it's about to be real. It's about to be real, and then it'll be that.
You have what it takes to like tune into a visual artist's career and kind of the steps they should be making. So where should artists start? Like if they're looking for longevity in the art world, like how does...
Yeah, it's such a funny question, and I was thinking about this because when I first started kind of working with Raw and with Heidi and Matt, it was I I did a little blog post, and it was like, you know, 10 top tips, and I revisited it in advance of coming here, and as I mentioned earlier, that was 10 years ago-ish, which meant that I had no opinion about Instagram because there was no Instagram.
Very true.
Hi out there, we're now on Instagram TV. So this is constantly shifting terrain. But I think the most important thing that I think an artist can keep in mind is that it really is to be part of a community. However you want to define that, whether that's in the city that you live in, brick and mortar, going to galleries, going to group shows, going to cafes, going to pop-ups, meeting other artists, befriending them, curating each other into stuff, you know, doing all the group shows you possibly can, then maybe pacing yourself, not to like sit around and wait for like the big solo show to happen, but to like be willing to put yourself out there in the interim in creative ways while you're waiting for that to happen, because that will likely be how it happens. So I would say it's sort of a community, being part of a conscious community of other artists is maybe the single most important thing that a person can do for their career right now. Because any advice I would have given somebody having to do with the gallery system even 4 years ago is largely obsolete now, at least in generalities. So, but I would say, and social media is a huge part of that, but it's not the only story. It's not the only part of the community. Like I'm talking, do the kids still say IRL? Do they? Or is that only, only old people say that now?
Still,
well, in real life, and get out there.
There's only so far, like, the digital scene can take you. I mean, just like on a general marketing sphere, everything is becoming experiential. And having that community, like people who you can like, okay, we're going through this struggle together and looking to like ideate with, that's definitely really important. So kind of the flip side of things, do you see visual artists making a bunch of mistakes that maybe you might warrant against in the future?
Well, I had to block somebody yesterday, but we're here for love, so. No, well, I mean, I would say mistakes. It's so hard. It's more like a kind of like you know it when you see it type deal.
Right.
But I would say that some of the mistakes that are the most sort of the things you would think were good ideas that turn out counterintuitively to not be good ideas are to like promote yourself at all costs, right? So you think, okay, I got to put myself out there. No one's doing this for me. So you carry postcards for your show in your pocket wherever you go. But if you're at another gallery and it's another artist opening and you're handing out your cards, that is like a micro bad will gesture, right? What'll happen is if you talk to people like you're just normal, it will come up. Oh, you're an artist too. Oh yeah, well I'm actually in a show. I don't really want to give you the card at someone else's opening, and they'll be like, no, it's cool. And I know this sounds precious, but it really is like the energy that you're putting out there, because what you would want would be for people to be paying attention to your show that they're at and being supportive of you, and there's plenty of time to do it. So it kind of goes back to that community thing. I think I see a lot of artists really going for it on their like taking charge of their own destiny and kind of forgetting that they're part of something larger.
No, I mean, it takes a village. I don't think the kids are saying that. Actually, the kids, I think, might be saying, like, don't act too thirsty, right? Like,
there you go.
You can't be too thirsty. Right. That's definitely... And be mindful of the community, right? Like,
and if you get a reputation for being supportive and engaged with what your peers are doing, right? You'll not only meet people, but you will get a reputation for being a supportive, engaged member of the community. And then a project will come along and someone will think of you because you're lovely. Right?
They're like, wow, I had this great interaction.
And so you really have to not rush it, you know, and that's part of the same advice. Like you can't, and you know, for every story, there's a story of somebody who just like had one amazing thing and like went for it and it went viral, and okay, hoop dreams. But like real talk, you have to just kind of be like a good citizen of the art world.
Layers. You just
things
gotta
will
keep
happen.
layering, right? Yeah. I think
that's right.
Like an oil painting or something. I don't know.
Good point.
But okay,
and an oil painting also takes a long time to dry.
There you go.
So that was actually really good.
I am winning today. Okay, so obviously, you know, getting involved in the community, things like that, showcase opportunities that come to an artist. How would one kind of, I guess, like weigh the benefits of, you know, whether it's worth it or not? What do you think in your mind are like the things that are like, okay, if they're not doing this, it's not worth your time?
Right. Well, one of the things, and I know you didn't, this isn't like a leading question, but like we are here at Raw.
True.
And the thing that the main thing that I've always liked about the Raw model is that because of how it's done, the audiences are there with like an intentionality, right? So it's not just like a vodka launch party where there happens to be art and you hope that the people look at it on their way to more free vodka.
Right.
Which is still fine, by the way. Nothing wrong with that. Like, do that too. But what I like about this is that the audience is just as intentional about it. So it's like, I've bought a ticket to come to a Raw event. And that means that I'm in the mood to discover new art and new music and new fashion. Yeah. So they are there to look at you. And so you have a directed audience.
Yeah. No, that's great. I've been working with Raw for almost a decade now, and I never really thought about that. You're right. Yeah. That's like the most captured, engaged audience member you could ask for.
So at that point, I would say, look at the audiences. You know, if you're thinking about it, go to an event or two. Yeah. And if you like being there, then it's for you.
That's your answer.
Exactly.
So we actually have a question.
Oh, good. Right, the
internet. Yay! Hey, internet. How would you build a community where there really isn't one yet?
Oh, you mean like in your, say, archetypal small town or something like that?
Yeah, let's say you're like in Boise, Idaho comes to mind. Even though we are in Boise, and they get noisy in Boise. So like
that's good.
Yeah.
I mean, rather than speak in sort of like a general sense, I'll say specifically, I think that find the coolest cafe / bar / bookstore in your town. There's one. I swear to God, there's one
has got to be
kind of hipster
Somebody
cafe.
moved back home after living in New York or LA for years and opened up a cafe near you. I'm very sure.
Find that.
Yeah.
And make them let you put art shows there. Your own, other people's, walk in, take it over, go. You guys have an amazing space. Can I start curating some art in the space? Yeah. We'll have little receptions. Everyone that comes in will buy coffee and a Linzer tort. Yeah. There's no downside for you, you know, whatever. And just do it. But I would say, like, because a lot of times getting your hands on, you know, an empty storefront and letting the developers let you use it for free till it gets rented is super awesome. But that's like a level of admin skills and possible insurance things, and you're kind of starting from scratch, and that's a lot.
Sounds like a full-time
basically
job.
I'm telling like the nice person start a gallery.
Yeah.
Right? And I get it. But if you partner with a local business that's already about a little bit of a cultured or eccentric kind of society, I mean, then in your town, then you already are starting, you know, halfway there. Yeah. And they should be open-minded, and that's a great way to go.
You're right.
I've seen a lot of really incredible, I mean, you know, is there an art house cinema with a lobby? Yeah. Because all the...
Throw a little pop-up show.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So all those types of things. Look, community partners with walls.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. They've already got the real estate. Once you have the space, that's like... half the battle right there. And then, I mean, I always
it's not really a favor to you. Like, it's something of value for them, too.
For sure.
So I would say do that.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Okay. By the way, thank you guys for sending those questions, and we really appreciate it. Hashtag Raw Artists, hashtag Industry Exchange if you want to send those through. Of course, hope you can just chat them right through to our amazing team on the other side of that camera, and they're going to send them our way. So an artist that is looking for these, you know, alternatives in a town where they might not have the opportunities might also be struggling to like find their voice, right? I think that maybe it might be like sequestered or trying to be pushed down in that type of scenario. How does and artists work on that, finding their own voice?
Well, see, now that is exactly where I'm all about social media and Instagram, where in other parts of my life I remain healthily skeptical of its effects. I have a pro and con list, but when it comes to communicating beyond geographical boundaries, there is nothing better than really Instagram. Because even Facebook, you know, we all have our socio-political issues with its effect on society, and we're all questioning our relationship to it in one way or another, and that's fair. I like it because there is no single better platform for creating an event and inviting everyone to it without having to know their email addresses or their, you know, so like I have yet to find a better substitute. But when it comes to your question about finding your voice, finding your people, getting feedback on your art, from strangers. The Instagram space is really functional. And I actually do a little mini talk teaching artists how to use Instagram, and it's called Hashtags Create Community.
Hashtag Create Community?
No, the title of it is Hashtags Create Community, because they do. Because when you use them right, that's what people follow. So if you don't just, you know, it's hashtag art, but it's, you know, what happens is you go to type in something like that you think is so unique, right? Hashtag, you know, unicorn pizza foot. And you suddenly see there are 5 other times it's been used, and you're like, who are those 5 people? And suddenly it's just it's randomized, but there's a little, you kind of do, if you pay attention to the way that you use hashtags, you and follow other hashtags, you can actually start finding each other. So rural artist, small town artist, young artist, portrait painter, you know, whatever it is, right? Recycled material art. As many, you know, don't go insane, but like, you know, a good like dozen or so. And you figure out what ones that relate to what you're doing are already existing out in the world, and you use them. Now you're in that conversation. Literally, that's a conversation, and you're in it. And you will start getting followers from other towns, states, countries, and many of them will be perfectly comfortable sending you messages and feedback about what they think. And for better or worse, but that's it. Like that is the substitute for a physical place if you really have barriers to that.
Can they just like hashtag that and find
it?
Like,
Well, I don't know if anyone's made that hashtag of hashtag creates community or not. I did that for an online artist coursework program. It's like a little video chat.
I love that.
And I just called it that. And I don't even know if I bothered tweeting about it because I'm the worst. Do as I
don't
say,
know if I made a hashtag.
Not as I do, I guess.
I mean, fair. But so when an artist has found their voice and has kind of gotten to a point where they want to start putting their art babies out into the world, obviously a lot of them think about pricing their work when beginning. How does one go about attacking that?
So with the caveat that I haven't worked in a commercial gallery since 1996.
Okay, fair.
I would say that the tricky part is that sort of sweet spot between when you're first starting out, the most important thing is to have like as many people fall in love with it and buy it and put it in their house as possible, and you want that to make that easy.
Right.
And at the other end of that is don't be insane and price it like $1 million because you love it. You should only go to a good home. Somewhere in the middle, though, one factor is valuing yourself.
Right.
So don't just make something that's clearly impressive and labor intensive $120 so that people buy it. Right? You are allowed to value yourself and the time and your talent. So there is a little bit of a thing where just not like cheap is not a good deal is not automatically attractive to a collector. They want to feel like there's a value that they're buying into. While at the same time, there's always room for your prices to go up.
Okay.
But there's nothing more horrifying than having to lower them.
Oof. Yeah. That's a
right, because it's
not good.
Horrifying personally. And unsettling to people who've bought your work at the previous price point. So not because it's all about investment, but just because that makes sense, right? Like, think about it, right?
Yeah.
So if you don't have a gallerist who can sit there and say to you, my clientele supports these price points in my experience, blah, 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 you're kind of with intuition. But I would say that, you know, that's what, if you want to be able to make something that you can sell for cheap, that's what editions are for.
Okay.
And you can make prints and small editions or zines or something and like put that out there for $10, $20, $100 while the original works of art are in the, you know, high hundreds, you know, low four digits, if I'm saying if you're starting out.
Right.
And then after that, you'll find, you know, champions and helpers that will help you like really square yourself up with the market. But when it's just you putting it on a wall and someone says, how much does it cost? And you're like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I would say a little more than, like, you think about yourself and maybe what you would find reasonable. If you saw something that was priced at $5,600 and you were like, I don't get it. I can't. But if you saw something that was priced at $900 and thought, that's a good deal, that piece is amazing, but check it, it's still $900.
Yeah.
So try a few things on and find out what feels good to you.
Yeah.
But do not sell yourself short just because you're young, but don't get too ambitious too fast because there's nowhere to go from there.
Right. Yeah, I think that there's a lot of, I definitely have seen a lot of artists like pricing that where I'm like, why is this $20? Like, you know, this is not, like, that's great because I'm going to buy it.
You bet.
But
I'm going to buy it first and then be like, why was that so cheap?
Yeah. Like,
not the other way around.
But you're absolutely right. I don't think necessarily a lot of artists value themselves in the fact of like, don't think of it as like a business. Like, you have to pay yourself like you're an employee, you know, right? They don't, maybe the time, it's like, oh, I put, you know, so many hours in this. Well, great. How much money do you want to be making an hour? Like, think about the kind of bigger, broader type things. And yeah, I think sometimes artists don't feel that they can charge certain prices because like, oh, it's not like a cohesive, you know, set of paintings or something like that. So I don't feel as comfortable. So yeah, I think really like how much you got to value yourself and like what you're putting into that.
And if all else fails and you really can't get good advice, go with your gut. Like like almost like try it on. Be like, how would I feel if I never saw that painting again for $500?
Right.
Would I regret? Do I already regret just thinking about that?
Right.
Price it higher.
Yeah.
Or how would I feel if I got $500 for this? I would feel like I made it.
Like, sweet.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Right? So try it on and really be honest with yourself about, you know, what it feels like.
Yeah.
And you'll get pretty close.
Being that you are a writer at the LA Times.
Weekly.
LA Weekly.
We'll fix it in post.
Yes. Is that you are constantly, you know, recognizing artists and doing that. How at the Weekly are you tips? That's where I'm going for. It's like tips. Do you give those out frequently through your writing?
Not so much. I mostly do that sort of thing in
like with the
this
videos
kind
that
of
you were
setting.
talking about.
Yeah,
okay.
This kind of setting, or those were a person named Brainerd Carey. He's wonderful, out of New York, who runs a kind of online school for artists, and it's all video. It's like video college, and it's all different topics and little 20-minute lesson plans, and he does personal consulting and stuff. So as part of that, or something like this, I do talks. I mean, I did MFA crit sessions at Cal State Long Beach last week. Okay. I talked with 4 different artists, and that's always part of it too. They're about to go out into the world. But in the writing itself, I have a tendency to cover more like what is out there, that's available to my readers, what they should know about, what they could go and see, an artist doing something interesting in that Meet an Artist Monday feature that I do with the interviews. But I don't really tackle the sort of business of art in my own writing practice.
So when you are doing these talks and things like that, have you accumulated, like, what tips do you think you can share with our artists here that you feel they're just like burning a hole inside of you and you need to like since you're not able to write about them.
Well, none of them are old enough probably to remember say anything, right? But that, right?
Right.
There's that moment where Ione Skye is giving the valedictorian address and she says, I've seen the future, go back.
Right,
And nobody laughs.
Yeah, it's like,
yeah. Oh. But I would say, I mean, as far as the tips go, I would say that the most important thing is to like, is to do what you can to balance your existence and not get like burned out on it, because it can be a very hermetic life. You're in the studio freaking out about stuff, and I shouldn't even say freaking out. That's projection of me at my computer freaking out because it was due yesterday. But the point is, like, it can be kind of lonely, right?
Yeah.
And then, you know, it's like it's almost like you have to force yourself away from the studio because you love what you're doing and that's where you want to be.
Yeah.
But I would say the most important tip is to stay connected to the art world in the place where you live, first and foremost, and then in the other ways that we've discussed more broadly, because I think that you not only get ideas and energy and support, but you get balance in your life as a human, so that when you're back in the studio, you have humanity to make the work about.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm almost like giving that advice to myself, even though I'm saying it out loud, because
great advice,
that is something I struggle with.
Yeah.
As a sort of workaholic who loves my job and stuff. So like that's, you know.
No, that makes
that's a major thing.
Sense.
People are asking about how to get gallery representation. Oh. Bless your heart. I have no idea. I can't tell you. I have people that I love and champion that I think are the best artists working in Los Angeles today who've never been able to figure out a gallery home.
How to get into a gallery.
And I see work in galleries and I think, what in the world?
How did you get in here?
So I am sorry, but but the one thing I will say, this will not 100% definitely work.
Right.
But it is something that is a needed part of a strategy that will work.
Okay.
Which is kind of like what I said before about meeting other artists. Mm-hmm. Go to every gallery.
Yeah.
You walk in the gallery. If you don't like openings, I hate them. I get agoraphobic.
Yeah.
I feel you. Go at Wednesday noon. You'll have the whole show to yourself. Go to every gallery. Sign every guest book. Get on the gallery mailing list. If you can deal with openings, go to them. Meet the artists. Meet the other artists. The people that work at the gallery will recognize your face. And 3 openings into it, they'll say hello to you. And 4 openings later, they'll say, are you an artist? And then you're having a conversation with them.
Yeah.
Not to mention that if you love art, you should want to see what's
out
being
there.
shown in your town.
Yeah.
I don't get to every gallery in LA every month.
I don't.
It's not physically possible. So don't like stress, but just like try to go to as many as you think you can handle. There really is no substitute for that. Yeah,
I mean, that, again, 100% like makes sense. And also, like, that's kind of good homework for you as an artist, right? Like, do I want to be in this gallery?
That is exactly it.
You know,
like, you've heard the name, but when you figure out that you hated 5 shows in a row, you can let that go.
You're like, cool.
Or you've never heard of them, but they open down the block, and 4 or 5 shows, you're suddenly in love with them. Who cares if they're not Gagosian? You love them.
Yeah.
There's no way to discover that if you don't walk out the door.
Get out there.
Yeah.
So I feel like the message we've really driven home today is like community.
Yeah.
Get out there. Yeah. Love being in the studio, but like really make connections out in the real world. Get to shows. I think that's super important, especially like in this digital landscape that we live in, of like
very much so.
Instagram and everything being driven like that. It's important to make those like IRL connections. So we are almost out of time. So with that in mind, do you want to leave our viewers with any further information?
The one thing I wanted to mention, I forgot, was open call shows.
Okay.
Not all of them require a fee.
Okay.
Many juried shows do, which, by the way, I'm fine with, because if they get a fancy juror, that person's not donating their time. So it's within reason.
Right.
Okay, but there are plenty where it's free to apply.
Oh, that's amazing.
And there are resources, there are Facebook groups dedicated to it, there are websites dedicated to it, as much comprehensive as can be. And if it costs nothing except a minute of your time, do as much of that as you can. That's the art center part of your community. That's the awesome. Non-commercial galleries most often. Things like that, call for artists. Do all of that.
Yeah. Put a Google alert.
Put a Google
call
alert.
For artists.
That's a good idea.
In your hometown.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Put that on. Let Google do the work for you. And yeah, especially if it's free. Yeah. We should all be doing the free.
I jury things like that a lot. So for what it's worth, I'm who would see your art, and people like me. So that's good, right?
Y'all, she's pretty awesome. Not gonna lie. I'm
okay. I have my moments.
She's all right. She's all right. That's an amazing tool and resource, though. For artists that they probably don't even think of things like that. Exactly. So that's amazing. Shana, thank you so much.
Meghan, thank you. Thank you, Ra.
We are gonna follow her on the Instagram. I'm a self-proclaimed art nerd, so I love seeing all the things. I like going to the underground shows here in LA, and also, like you said, there's no possible way one could get to that many galleries here. So it's good to live vicariously through you. I love that. Thank you for sharing your knowledge again. Thank you everybody for tuning in. For those who are in the LA area, pick up your LA Weekly. You'll see this one's face in the column. Read it. Happy Halloween to everybody that is this week. I hope you're wearing the best of the best. We want to see that. So make sure you're following @Raw Artists. Make sure you're hashtagging Raw Artists and sharing those pictures with us this week. We want to share with our community. And we'll see you for another industry exchange next month right here, November 19th. I'm Meghan Jones. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.